Hello and welcome to another fantasy football video. Hope everyone is doing well. We haven't had any games for game week 7, so looking straight ahead to game week 8. There's still quite a bit that's sort of up in the air. I think the most likely thing that is going to happen is that all of the London fixtures will get called off due to policing and the rest of the fixtures will go ahead. So that's the kind of main consideration I'm going to be taking into this video, only really looking at players who will potentially play in those fixtures. Today we're going to be taking a quick look at how the team lines up and then potential transfer plans ahead of game week 8. If you're new around here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. It really does help me out and is only a click away. So how does the team line up? You can see here that there are a few fires that need putting out. Surprisingly so, those fires are actually from the Liverpool boys Salah and Trent, playing away at Chelsea potentially in game week 8 or potentially blanking. Sort of had enough of them anyway. Reece James as well there, a potential fire. However, with Graham Potter coming into Chelsea, I'm quite intrigued to see how he does play. You can see there at the top that Sanchez currently doesn't have a fixture. The Brighton versus Crystal Palace game was already postponed due to rail strikes. And then the rest of the team, I say I'm reasonably happy with. I transferred Rashford in just before the game week 7 deadline in order to catch his price rise, went from Neto to Rashford. So as we can see here, the main players that I am looking at is Salah and Trent out. So I'm going to be taking a quick look at some of those replacements. And then I'm also looking at bringing in a third attacker. I've got Greenwood sitting at 4.4 million on my bench, and I would quite like to upgrade that to another player. So in terms of Trent replacements, I'm actually looking at kind of slashing his price completely down from 7.5 to 4.5 million. For me, currently the best replacement, as I already have the likes of Cancelo, the likes of Trippier, is Diogo Dallow of Manchester United. Now, United haven't been the best so far this season in terms of keeping clean sheets, only keeping 2 out of 6 games. However, once they dropped Maguire from that defence, they only conceded 2 goals and kept 2 clean sheets in those other games. Within those games that they kept clean sheets, Diogo Dallow picked up 6 bonus points, so he got the maximum amount of bonus points in each of those games. And to show you quite how well he did in those games, he picked up a yellow card both times in those games, which obviously isn't the best in terms of, for FPL. We don't want players picking up yellow cards because it gets -1 point. But the fact that he managed to keep 3 bonus points and get the yellow card shows just how good he could be going forward. Now, Manchester United fixtures aren't the best, but they're not the worst. For this Leeds game, now Leeds so far this season have been decent going forward, but not so good at the back. And Diogo Dallow has shown down that right flank that he can be very attacking, picking up an assist to Bruno Fernandes earlier on in the season. I do think that this Manchester City game will come a little bit too soon for them, so I'd probably be benching him for that game. But then against Everton, a side that has been struggling to score goals so far this season, that is a game that I will be targeting for a clean sheet. So Diogo Dallow, definitely a player I'm looking to bring in. Slashing the price obviously down to 4.5 million means that I can upgrade Greenwood to another attacker. And I think the main attacker that I am looking at, and a lot of people are looking at so far this week, is Alexander Mitrovic of Fulham. I think the main reason that most people are targeting him is because of that Nottingham Forest away game. Forest so far this season have been statistically the worst defence. They've conceded 14 goals, averaging just over 2 goals conceded per game. Now, Fulham have scored 9 goals, and out of those 9 goals, Alexander Mitrovic had scored 6 goals. So he scored 6 goals in 6 games, picking up 7 bonus points. He looks like a real threat so far this season on penalties. He did miss that one against Wolves. Had he scored it, he could actually potentially be the second highest scoring player in FPL behind Haaland. Coming in at 6.8 million, arguably the best value for money in terms of an attacker. Tony and Isaac definitely come in close, but we haven't really seen that much from Isaac yet. And Tony, I mean, I guess you could argue it's a bit of a toss of a coin, but with the fixtures that Mitrovic and Fulham do have, I think that Mitrovic is the one, and especially from game week 11 to game week 14 after the international break, Fulham have 3 home fixtures out of 4 between 11 and 14, playing against Bournemouth, Villa and Everton, all at home. I think that Mitrovic is going to be a must-have player for those fixtures. As we mentioned, Sanchez in goal doesn't have a fixture. Now, I could play Danny Ward, but I don't really fancy him. Even if the Spurs game does go ahead, I think I'd rather not play him. And Nick Pope for Newcastle seems to be the standout option so far this season. Currently sitting at the top of the leaderboard in terms of points scored for goalkeepers after his sublime performance against Crystal Palace last weekend, picking up 9 saves and grabbing 3 bonus points, picking himself up a 12-pointer. Newcastle's fixtures, as you can see there, look pretty tidy as well. Against Bournemouth at home, Bournemouth so far this season arguably have been the worst attacking side. They've failed to score in 4 out of 6 games. So if the fixtures do go ahead, you look at that fixture and you'd say that is probably the fixture that I'd back a team to keep a clean sheet the most in. It would mean that I would have Trippier and Pope as a double up of the Newcastle defence. But the thing I like about that is the fact that, you know, with both of those players, they're not just going to sit there and idly get you a 6-pointer. Both players are good for the bonus points, so we'll pick up sort of 7 or 8 points per clean sheet, which over the course of the season really does stack up, coming in at 5.1 million. This could be the season that the kind of 4.5 million goalkeeper trend breaks a little bit, because Pope does seem to be the standout option. Sanchez still looking like a viable option throughout the rest of the season, but is confirmed already to not having a game week 8. So I think Nick Pope in is definitely a transfer I'm looking to make. Then in terms of who can we replace Salah with, the most obvious player is Kevin De Bruyne of Manchester City. Now, De Bruyne hasn't had the best of starts to the season, picking up 32 points and actually scoring 6 less points than Salah so far this season. However, he did get benched in 1 game and has actually got attacking returns in 4 out of his 5 starts so far this season, contributing to a third of Manchester City's 18 goals thus far. As we can see here, Manchester City have a decent fixtures coming up. They've always struggled a little bit against Wolves, but with game week 7 having been postponed, Manchester City will play midweek in the Champions League, but then I find it very unlikely that De Bruyne will then be rotated just before the international break. So we can most likely expect that De Bruyne will pick up hopefully 90 minutes in this game, and he is probably the player that I would be most scared of not owning going into game week 8. I feel like if only the games not in London do go ahead, then the big hitters that we're really looking towards are the likes of De Bruyne, Haaland, and there aren't really any other big hitters. I mean, Ronaldo maybe, but he's going to probably be benched in that game anyway. So I feel like De Bruyne is a player that you don't want to be missing out on in game week 8, if only the fixtures that aren't being played in London do go ahead. Then, considering that, I'm going to be taking a look at a little punt going into game week 8, and that is Jarrod Bowen. Now, West Ham have been pretty underwhelming so far this season, and Bowen in particular has not looked that great, not picking up a single attacking return so far this season. However, a little silver lining is that he did last Thursday take a penalty for West Ham in their Europa League conference game. Declan Rice, we have seen step up and take a penalty and miss so far this season. So Bowen could be the man that is lined up next to take a penalty in the Premier League. That would be a massive bonus for him were he to do so. You can also see here that West Ham's fixtures are pretty nice as well, playing as Everton, then Wolves and Fulham after the international break. So you could bring him in and justify bringing him in for this game week 8, because after the international break he does have a good fixture, so you could hold on to him then as well. Picking up 13 points so far this season is not great at all, and coming at 8.1 million, does he really justify the price? Probably not. However, as I say, the main reason for me bringing Jarrod Bowen in would be if those London games did get called off, and it would give us a much smaller pool of players in order to pick from, and at that point I think Bowen would be a decent punt going forward. So that is the kind of main players that I am looking at potentially bringing in ahead of game week 8. For me personally, I feel like if we do get the go ahead, that at least some of the fixtures for game week 8 will be going ahead, or at least all of them. I think I will be hitting that wildcard button, just because I feel like the team needs sorting out in terms of Trent, in terms of Salah, in terms of Reece James, in terms of the goalkeeper. There are sort of 3 or 4 moves that I definitely like making, with only one free transfer as well. that I could only bring in, maybe a Mitrovic or a Nick Pope. I feel like there are a lot more options and a lot more players that I would like in the team. Let me know what you are thinking of ahead of game week 8. It's obviously hard to plan at the minute, but we can just have a discussion anyway. If you have enjoyed the video, don't forget to hit that like button, hit the subscribe button. If you're new around here, it really helps me out, and I will catch you in the next one. See ya.